Today I want to talk about a common issue that most pilgrims walking the Camino will have to deal with at some point: wet shoes. Whether you're caught in a rainstorm or you stepped in a deep puddle, dealing with soggy shoes is a real bummer. When it happens, how do you sufficiently dry them so you're not walking in them wet the next day? Well, stay tuned to hear my top tips for drying wet shoes on the Camino. Hi pilgrims, Sue from Sisters to Santiago here today to discuss my top tips for drying wet shoes on the Camino. When we are preparing to walk the Camino, choosing the right footwear is critical. While waterproof trail runners might seem like the perfect solution to keep your feet dry, they do come with some substantial drawbacks. So before I dive into my discussion on how to dry your wet shoes, I'm going to first share why I believe waterproof shoes are not the solution. Number one, lack of breathability. Waterproof membranes like Gore-Tex are designed to keep water out. However, they also restrict airflow, leading to sweaty feet that will increase your risk of blisters and fungal infection. Number two, extended drying time. Again, this waterproof membrane is not your friend. The sweat you feel and experience from that lack of breathability is stuck inside your shoes, and waterproof shoes are notorious for taking longer to dry out. Number three, reduced flexibility. That waterproof membrane, again, not your friend. They do make the shoes stiffer, and it reduces the flexibility and the natural movement of walking, and that could lead to some potential foot problems. Number four, waterproof shoes are often heavier than their non-waterproof cousins due to the additional materials used in their construction. So when every ounce counts, adding a heavier shoe may not be something that you want to deal with. If you're enjoying this informational vlog so far, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell to be notified when we drop some new content. Now that I've shared why I don't think waterproof shoes are the answer, I want to focus on what you should do when your non-waterproof trail runners get wet. First things first, take the insoles out of your shoes and remove the laces. This will help air circulation throughout the shoe and allow them to dry faster. Plus, it prevents the insoles from staying damp, which can lead to odor and bacterial buildup. Number two, shake out the excess water. Give your shoes a real good shake and get rid of the excess water. You'd be surprised at how much water can still be trapped inside. Hold them by the heels and just shake them vigorously. Number three, air them outside. If it stopped raining when you reach the town you're going to stay in for the evening, fabulous. You'll be able to put them outside and maybe even in the sun to dry. After the sun goes down, you'll want to do these additional steps as follow-up. Number four, stuff them with absorbent materials. When you get to your accommodations for the evening, ask if there is newspapers that you can use. Many albergues do have some, but if you don't, head to town and see if you can find some. Ideally, newspapers work best, but if you can't find any, maybe some paper towels would be available. You want to stuff them into your shoes. This will help absorb moisture from the inside. Ideally, you want to change the paper every few hours to ensure it continues to dry out the water. But if you don't have additional paper, that's fine. Just move it around a little bit more and you should be in good shape for the next morning. Number five, use a fan or a dryer if you have it available. If you're in an albergue that night, this probably won't be an option, but if you're staying in a hotel, a pension, or an Airbnb, you might have access to a fan or a hairdryer. Set the fan on high and aim it directly at the front of your shoe. You can also use a hairdryer on a cool setting, but avoid using hot heat as it can damage the materials of your shoes. Number six, avoid direct heat. Resist the urge to place your shoes on a heat source like a radiator or inside a dryer. Excess heat can warp the shoe shape and it can degrade the materials and reduce the lifespan and performance of your shoes. Number seven, just be patient. Drying shoes can take a while, especially if they are soaked through. Hopefully they dry out by the next morning when you start walking. But if by chance they are still damp in the next morning, Your choice of socks will help reduce any blisters that may result from hiking in wet shoes. So what socks do I recommend? Wool, definitely wool. Invest in a good pair of wool socks. Wool can wick moisture away from your feet, and it still provides insulation even when they're wet. They also dry much faster than cotton socks and will keep your feet comfortable. Some pilgrims also bring gaiters with them if they are walking during a notoriously wet season or the forecast is looking really grim. Gaiters won't completely keep water out of your shoes, but it can reduce the water hitting your shoes when there is a downpour. The one thing you have to consider though is weight. Even though gaiters don't weigh a lot, it still does add weight to your backpack, and every ounce counts. For my sister and I, we've decided that gaiters is not for us, so we're not going to bring them, but I did want to point them out as an alternative for you. If you're worried about rain on your Camino, check out our vlog on the great debate over the rain jacket and pack cover combo versus the poncho. I have put a link in the description below if you're interested. If you have any other ideas on drying out your wet shoes, please share them in the comments below. And thank you for joining me today, and I hope these tips will help you if you get stuck walking in the rain on your next Camino.